Welcome to Failed Business Strategies presentation on Blockbuster by Jaime Simpson. Almost a decade before Blockbuster Video was even a thought, Dave Cook was owner-operator of Cook's Data Services in Dallas, Texas, a company that provided tools and computer software to the Texas oil and gas industry, highlighting Cook's skills as an expert with building databases. It wasn't until 1985 that the notion of Blockbuster came into existence. An idea from Cook's wife. In the face of collapse of the oil market in the mid-'80s, Cook opened the first ever Blockbuster video rental location in Dallas in October of 1985. Cook crafted Blockbuster to function off of a hub and spokes model, as his $6 million central warehouse in Garland, Texas, held a massive stock of new movies, along with employing his predictive model to ship the right types and amounts of videos out to individual stores. By housing his inventory in a central location, it made expanding more affordable. Cook's early successes can be attributed to quick access to recently released movies combined with Cook's stocking practice of video targets to neighborhood demographics of its store locations. This model allowed Cook to have over 8,000 VHS tapes and more than 6,500 titles. Cook's original Blockbuster was also 3 times the size than his nearest competitor. Another unique feature Cook employed was to have movies displayed out on shelves, unlike other video chains that stored movies behind the counter. He also used innovation disruption by staying open later than other video rental stores. Cook capitalized on his technological skills and implemented a computerized scanning system to expedite checkouts and returns. One move that is seen as crucial to Cook's success and future growth was his mission to become a family-friendly destination, as he refused to stock adult films. In an effort to seek investor funding, Cook was planning on going public. However, news broke, casting doubt on Cook's ability to shift his skills effectively to a new industry successfully, and the public offering was canceled. As a result, Blockbuster was hemorrhaging cash and lost $3.2 million by the end of 1986. With the option of going public off the table, Cook was open to private investors. Thus, in 1987, bringing Wayne Huizenga into the picture of Blockbuster's future growth. Huizenga, the founder of Waste Management Incorporated, a well-established entrepreneur and investor, along with a group of other investors, purchased 1/3 of Blockbuster and bought over $18 million in stock. Huizenga was a force to be reckoned with, and at lightning speed, Blockbuster was exploding. This was against Cook's initial plan of steady growth through franchising. Huizenga, sticking to what he did best, bought up his competitors. This had forced Cook to surrender complete control of Blockbuster to Huizenga. Upon Cook's leaving the company, Huizenga moved the headquarters from Texas to Florida and implemented an aggressive expansion plan. With Huizenga at the lead, the late 1980s saw Blockbuster acquiring several major rivals. It was noted, at its peak, Huizenga was opening a new location every 17 hours. Blockbuster was the leading video chain by 1988, having over 400 store locations and venturing internationally by quickly opening locations in London and Canada. In May of 1989, Blockbuster's accounting practices were criticized in an analysis report citing the company's growth and was attributed to shady merger accounting, not from non-reoccurring sales of new franchises. Blockbuster deflected and investors quickly forgot the questionable practices of Huizenga. However, analysts did not turn a blind eye and started questioning the long-term growth outlook for Blockbuster, especially after United Artists Entertainment, its largest shareholder, divested its 12% stake and sold off its 28 franchise stores. Early on, in 1990, Blockbuster had launched its 1,000th store and made the decision to expand its overseas market. This decision stemmed from a review in sales, in which monthly sales increased by 35% in 1988, but slowed dramatically in 1989 and 1990 to just 8% and 7.5%. Hopes were pinned on this international expansion, and Blockbuster lowered its rental price in efforts to boost earnings. Although Huizenga blamed the Gulf War for pulling the attention away from the video market, the reality was that pay-per-view, along with cable programming, were starting to pick up in popularity. Blockbuster had over 3,400 stores by 1993 and was looking to expand beyond being just a video business and into a full entertainment establishment. Huizinga had a major vision for Blockbuster to be a giant entertainment all-inclusive spot for customers, a place where they could satisfy all their needs such as movies, music, computer programs, video games, and offer virtual reality arcades. This drove him to acquire Sound Warehouse and Music Plus, along with entering partnerships with Virgin Retail to open mega music stores within the U.S. and overseas. Huizinga envisioned customers having the desire to not only browse a massive music selection, but want access to customizable CDs. This led Blockbuster to strike a joint venture with IBM, which would have seen the development of a system for instant in-store duplication of CDs, which would have created a digital database. In 1993, Blockbuster proposed a $4.7 billion merger with media giant Viacom. To encourage this, Blockbuster invested heavily in Viacom. Despite this tactic, merger talks stalled and both companies saw a drop in stock value. Ultimately, in 1994, Viacom acquired Blockbuster for $8.4 billion. This buyout spurred a revolving door of CEOs for Blockbuster, with Huizinga leaving in 1994, Steve Berard leaving after a year and a half, then former Walmart executive Bill Fields took on the role, yet resigned unexpectedly in early 1997, with his replacement being John Antioco taking on the role midsummer. With Blockbuster in shambles, Antioco noticed many issues, such as the cash flow problems illustrated in the second quarter of 1997, as it had plummeted 70% and that Blockbuster Music was not profitable. He sold it off in August of 1998 to Warehouse Entertainment for $115 million. Unfortunately, Viacom was relying on the robust cash flow from Blockbuster to pay down its own debt of $10 billion from the acquisition of Paramount. Instead, Viacom was pouring more cash into Blockbuster than it was getting back. Yet, in 1997, Warner Brothers offered a way out of this predicament by proposing a deal to allow Blockbuster to rent out Warner Brothers DVDs before they went on sale to the public. Warner Brothers were seeking a 40% cut, but Blockbuster refused the deal. Instead, they waited and, in a desperate act, opted to go public to raise money in August of 1999 with an initial offering of 18% of its stock in Blockbuster. Disappointingly, the offer came in under its expected range of $16 to $18, garnered just $15 a share, and raised just $465 million. This lukewarm reception came on the heels of the video rental industry being perceived as a dying sector. Major events happened in this time frame. Netflix founded its online DVD rental service in 1997. The same year, Walmart jumped at the Warner Brothers DVD offer that was pitched to Blockbuster, catapulting Walmart past Blockbuster as the studio's largest revenue source. Amazon also entered the scene, selling cheap DVDs online. It was not until August of 1999 that a mere 1,000 Blockbuster stores started carrying copies of DVDs. In 2000, Blockbuster was approached by the co-founders of Netflix, Reed Hastings and Mark Randolph, with a $50 million offer. Hastings explained it as a partnership where Netflix would run Blockbuster's online service and Netflix would be promoted inside Blockbuster stores. However, CEO Antioco and his team were reported to have laughed the Netflix execs out of the room. 4 years later, Blockbuster split from Viacom and went out to launch its own online DVD rental service in efforts to compete with Netflix, which proved to be unsuccessful mainly due to its inability to match the vastness of Netflix's library, ultimately making it unattractive to customers. In December of 2006, Antioco was at odds with the board over bonus compensation and resigned. His replacement was former head of 7-Eleven, Jim Keyes. However, this move came too late to help Blockbuster and its downward spiral. By the start of 2010, Blockbuster shares had dropped 91% from their peak, and they were delisted from the New York Stock Exchange, just shy of its 25th anniversary. On September 22, 2010, Blockbuster filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. In April of 2011, the company was acquired by Dish Network at auction for $233 million and the assumption of $87 million in liabilities and obligations. By 2014, Blockbuster had closed the remaining company-owned stores, leaving the independently owned Blockbuster in Bend, Oregon, as the last remaining store still open today. Leadership missteps. Some major ones were overcommitment to physical stores, reliance on late fees, rejecting Netflix offer, ignoring customers' habit changes, Blockbuster leadership actions. Major ones were failed to innovate from within, prioritize short-term profits over long-term strategy. According to Harvard Business School article, A Blockbuster Failure and the Changing Media Landscape, two main factors directly related to Blockbuster's downfall, which were their distribution practices and the business model they employed. Blockbuster was overly reliant on its extensive brick-and-mortar distribution system of 9,000 stores and 60,000 employees during its peak, which hindered innovation and adaptability. Leadership issues stemming from CEOs Antioco and Keyes' underestimation of online distribution, with Antioco outright rejecting the offer in 2000 to buy Netflix for $50 million. Instead of pivoting, they doubled down on their commitment to physical stores, delaying an online platform until 2004, 6 whole years after Netflix's launch. The overconfidence and past success and lack of vision left Blockbuster slow in being able to adapt. Blockbuster's store-based business model had overhead and fixed costs that were high, which provided poor scalability, with profitability tied to recouping heavy upfront investments. To drive returns, they relied on high rental turnover and late fees, which at one point made up 70% of their revenue. This created a frustrating experience for customers. Even after removing late fees in 2005, in 2010, under Keyes, they reinstated them to offset losses. It ended up being an opaque late fee policy that resulted in litigation against Blockbuster. Yet, Netflix's low-cost subscription model with no late fees and centralized distribution was a simpler, more attractive customer-friendly option that quickly gained traction, outpacing Blockbuster. As author and expert on transformation and change, Greg Sittel explained that Blockbuster ultimately failed ironically because its leadership had built such a well-functioning machine of tightly woven network that could execute with extreme efficiency, yet was ill-adapted to let in new information. The downfall of Blockbuster is largely due to its failure to adapt to a changing market, as it held tight to its brick-and-mortar model while customers' preferences were shifting away from this and towards convenience and digital access. Through employing these upcoming 3 strategies, Blockbuster could have innovated, simplified, and sustained its competitive edge. At the outset, Blockbuster failed to adapt because it ignored disruptive innovation. The type that starts small is viewed as low quality, yet eventually transforms an entire industry. According to Clayton Christensen, all too often, established companies fail when they stick their sights on serving their current, high-value core customer base while dismissing startups such as Netflix and Redbox. First strategy is disruptive innovation. Problem: Blockbuster held too tight to its traditional business model, relying on its late fees and brick-and-mortar stores, and dismissed Netflix's digital disruption as a low-end niche that would not catch on. Missed strategy. Blockbuster missed the opportunity to embrace disruptive innovation early through experimenting with online rental services, streaming, and no late fee models. Solution: senior leadership could have diversified by creating a separate digital division, allowing innovation to thrive without posing a threat to the core business model that was valued by top executives. To add to Blockbuster's failures, it lacked a strategic approach to innovation. They were a reactive company as opposed to a proactive one, which launched products like offering DVDs and streaming services too late. Gary Pisano's stance is that innovation shouldn't be random. Rather, it should be structured. It is necessary for it to be tied to a company's goals and capabilities, where senior leadership must make deliberate choices, such as being the first to launch or quick to follow, and where to place investments, should it be in the process, technology, or within the business model innovation. Second strategy, innovation strategy. Problem: Blockbuster lacked a clear innovation framework. They reacted to the competition, but passed over on leading or coordinating any innovation efforts. Missed strategy. They failed to adopt a formal innovation strategy that aligned well with their business goals. Solution: implementation of Pisano's approach to aid in making strategic innovation choices. First, invest early on in tech infrastructure. Next, get the jump on licensing streaming rights ahead of rivals. Then, prioritize companies' focus on business model innovation, not just upgrades in technology. Had Blockbuster followed this framework, they could have prioritized early licensing of streaming content, been more productive with partnerships to build a customer-friendly digital platform before Netflix's rise to dominance. One of Blockbuster's biggest leadership failures was ignoring what its customers truly valued and wanted. According to Stobiarski's value-based strategy, companies should align their operations with what creates the most value for their customers, and not just on what protects their short-term profits. Third is value-based strategy. Problem: Blockbuster prioritized short-term profits with a specific focus on revenues from late fees and neglected customer satisfaction, thus pushing customers away and provided Netflix with a clear opening with their customer-friendly model. Missed strategy. Blockbuster should have applied a value-based strategy by identifying what customers valued most, such as convenience, transparency, and above all, no penalties for late returns, then aligning its business model to deliver these and raising customer satisfaction. This meant shifting Blockbuster's focus from protecting its outdated revenue streams to capitalizing on perceived value. Solution: leadership could have eliminated late fees permanently early on, simplified pricing model, and prioritized easy access to digital content. If Blockbuster followed a value-based strategy, they would have seen the need to redesign their business model to remove customer pain points and focus on optimizing convenience and affordability, which was exactly what customers were moving toward. If Blockbuster leaders had adopted even just one of these three strategies to embrace disruption, lead in innovation, or apply value-based strategy, then the company might still be here today. It wasn't just Netflix nor the other rivals that led to Blockbuster's demise. It was, in fact, Blockbuster's refusal to change, to adapt, that was its ultimate downfall. Thank you.